The contract has been signed, and if you'd like to sign it, Mr. Undertaker, you may have the match with Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania.
Wrestling fans, are you ready?
Yes! Yes! Yes!
For the thousands in attendance and the millions watching around the world, let's get ready to rumble!
I am the voice of the voiceless.
Do I have everybody's attention now?
Sorry about your damn luck.
I deserve one more match.
It's going to be the end of the world as you know it.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of WrestleRant Radio right here on Easy Radio. I'm your host with the most, a Bleacher Report featured columnist Graham GSM Matthews. And what a week in wrestling it was. We had WWE Elimination Chamber this past Sunday night. We had one of the best editions of Raw, in my opinion, in quite some time, with the returns of Hulk Hogan, brother, and Undertaker last night, as well as Brock Lesnar. WrestleMania 30 only 40 days away. And also, who can of course forget, the launch of the WWE Network yesterday. We're going to be talking about all that and much more right here in WrestleRant Radio. But of course, before we go on with anything else wrestling related, help me introduce my my co-host for tonight, fellow Save Us GSM buddy. We had him on a couple of months ago, the first time that he's been on here on WrestleRant Radio. He has a show of his own, CNC Reviews. So please introduce Caleb at this time. How's it going tonight, Caleb?
Hey, Graham. It's great to be here. How are you doing tonight?
Doing excellent. And as I said before, a lot to cover here tonight on WrestleRant Radio. But of course, continue the conversation and all things wrestling by following me on Twitter at WrestleRant. And you can also like my official Facebook page at Graham GSM Matthews. Just want to get those plugs out of the way real quick. And of course, other exclusive content pertaining to WrestleRant Radio on my YouTube page, Graham GSM Matthews, as well as on my website, nextEraWrestling.weebly.com, where you can check out the complete archive of WrestleRant Radio, every episode dating back to October, and other exclusive excerpts of this show. So make sure to check that out. But before we go any further, with Elimination Chamber from this past Sunday, Monday Night Raw from last night, WrestleMania 30 predictions, and all that good stuff, I want to talk briefly about the WWE Network. Now, that launched yesterday. It's a revolutionary concept. We talk about it time and time in the past here on this show. I was very much looking forward to it. I officially will be getting it for myself on Thursday. I will be purchasing it, not doing the 1 week trial. And some people have been asking me why I don't do the 1 week trial. The reason is because I don't get the credit card number I need for the account until Thursday, and that's what you need for the 1 week trial, regardless of whether you do the trial or you purchase it just full on for the 6 months, whatever. So I have to wait until Thursday to get it. However, someone did lend me their account to use for these next few days, which I really do appreciate. So shout out to that guy. I really do appreciate that. But having said that, it's an absolutely amazing thing. I checked it out last night after Monday Night Raw. I checked it out for a few hours since I didn't have classes today. That was pretty cool. But just an absolutely amazing concept. You can go back and watch every WWE pay-per-view that you want. You type something into the search bar, as JBL did last night on Raw. You type in CM Punk, you get all of his matches. You get anything you want, basically, at the click of a button. And all your favorite superstars are on there. They have their own exclusive shows, which they will be adding over time. They will be adding documentaries as well, apparently. They have episodes of Raw and SmackDown in their entirety on a on the network as well. They have the complete archive, so it's really, really cool. You can check it out, and I'm looking forward to it. So I'm looking forward to purchasing it on Thursday for myself. But having said that, Caleb, did you purchase or check out the WWE Network at all?
I did. I was not expecting to get it this weekend, and then yesterday I just decided, hey, I'm seeing everyone tweeting about it. This sounds awesome. So I, purchased it and whatnot, and I looked at a couple stuff. I sent it out to make sure it's streaming right. I know a lot of people are having issues. I personally have had, I think I've had maybe one or two glitches I can do with pausing. I've had some difficulty, I paused for 30 minutes because I had to go do something, and then it just completely froze. It would not, unpause. That's the closest to a glitch I've had. But, last night after Raw, I checked out WrestleMania 1, and it was great. I really enjoyed the WWE Network. I understand a lot of people are having a lot more issues than I'm having, and I can understand when people are having complaints. But, it's Netflix for wrestling. It's just amazing. As someone who, uses Netflix and HBO Go and stuff like that, having to do with my show, and just personally, it's fantastic because as a wrestling fan, this is all you could ever want. I actually tweeted whenever I first logged in, I said, this is wrestling heaven, because that's exactly what it is. You have all these archives and these hours and hours of just matches and content at your fingertips. It's amazing.
Oh, absolutely. It's not perfect, of course. They had their respective issues with the network. I didn't sign up, of course. Like I said, I just used someone's account, so I didn't have to go through the whole login chaos, but you got to understand something, people. This is launch day, and everyone is signing up at once. 9 a.m. Eastern, everyone was signing up. It was chaos. Of course there's going to be issues. Of course it's going to take a while for your credit card to go through or to get to the website, because the whole server apparently was overwhelmed, so I'm not surprised. But I'm not surprised that there were any issues with it. But, having said that, though, it was definitely worth it. A lot of cool content, as you just said. All your favorite pay-per-views. I was actually contemplating earlier today watching every WrestleMania going to WrestleMania 30, but with WrestleMania 30 just being 40 days away and every pay-per-view being close to 3 to 4 hours long, I don't know how realistic that is. But I'm going to try to check out as many WrestleManias as I can, specifically WrestleMania 17 and the IWC. I tweeted this last night. The IWC will eat me alive because I haven't seen that event yet in its entirety, but I will promise to do that soon. That is the first event I am looking to watch on the WWE Network when I have the time, probably this weekend. But even still, though, when I was watching it last night, there were a few lagging issues. I heard some people complaining about that. That's understandable. It's the first day. They got to work out the bugs and the kinks and whatever. But even still, I know a lot of people are upset that it's not available to outside countries at this point in time. It's only exclusive to the United States at this point in time, and maybe Canada, because I know someone said that they tried it up in Canada just for the heck of it, and they found out that it actually works. So I don't know what part of Canada they're located in, so the people up north could actually benefit from the WWE Network. They could be in luck if they could get the network before everyone else in the world does. So I feel for you guys. It's definitely worth the wait. I mean, all of us had to wait several years for this to come to fruition. We've had to wait at the latest since of late 2011 because they aired that commercial for it, and nothing ever came of it. And it finally launched yesterday. I'm very much looking forward to it. They're going to be adding more content over time. So it's an absolutely amazing thing, and I look forward to checking it out even further. And like you said, Caleb, you said you were going to watch WrestleMania 1. Any other? What other pay-per-views are you looking to watch on the network now that you've had it?
The first one was tonight. I'm going to watch the Wrestling Classic, which was the second ever WWF pay-per-view, and I don't know anything about it. That'll be interesting. Mm-hmm. I'm planning to watch a bunch of ECW content this week. That's probably going to be one of my main goals to do. And then, probably at some point next week, I'll try to check out some WCW stuff.
Of course, WCW and ECW pay-per-views available on the network as well. I heard a lot of people talking about how they were watching ECW pay-per-views, which is actually pretty cool. And I've never seen an ECW pay-per-view in its entirety, so I look forward to checking that out. Specifically the ones in the latter years, because I heard the ones in the latter years, right before it closed in 2001, were actually better than some of the earlier ones. So that's pretty interesting to find out. But, having said that, though, I really look forward to checking out the WWE Network a little bit more. I didn't have much time last night to do it, but once I get it on Thursday, and the benefit of getting it on Thursday for myself is, of course, WWE NXT Arrival, the first ever NXT live event. and it's going to be absolutely amazing. They have Emma versus Paige lined up for the NXT Women's Championship. They've got Bo Dallas versus Adrian Neville in a ladder match for the NXT Championship. Get this, Cesaro versus Sami Zayn, and I believe it's going to be a 2 out of 3 count falls match. If it isn't, still going to be amazing anyway. But having said all that, though, NXT is the best kept secret in wrestling today because it was only available in other states, in other countries. So for the other countries complaining that they don't have the network, you had that for a while. You had NXT at your disposal. So lucky you guys. But that being said, though, NXT is better than Raw and SmackDown more often than not. They have a lot of great content, a lot of great superstars, a lot of up-and-coming talent in NXT. So if you haven't seen NXT yet, I strongly suggest checking out Arrival Live this Thursday night. It's going head-to-head with Impact. It's a 2 live-hour event. It's going to start at 8 o'clock Eastern Time and end at 10 right in the middle of Impact, so there will be 1 hour from 9 to 10 Eastern Time that TNA Impact and NXT Arrival will be going head-to-head. Someone asked me a few days ago, which one will I be watching first? Which one will I be watching as it's happening? I'll answer that, but Caleb, I want you to answer that first. What will you be watching on Thursday night, NXT Arrival or Impact?
That's actually a pretty difficult choice for me because I've been enjoying the hell out of TNA lately. But honestly, I mean, I haven't watched NXT since NXT 200, which is probably an IWC sin. But I'm probably going to watch NXT Arrival. I mean, it's on the network. It'll probably be the first live thing on the network that I'll be streaming. And I just think it sounds awesome. You know, like you said, Adrian Neville and Bo Dallas in the ladder match sounds great. I'm not a huge fan of Bo Dallas, but I mean, Adrian Neville in the ladder match, that's take my money now. Still. And then Cesaro and Zayn, I mean, that's probably worth getting the network just alone just to watch that match live. I can't wait to see that. I mean, their last couple matches on NXT were fantastic. I'm definitely watching NXT Arrival and DVRing Impact.
Absolutely. NXT, like I said before, one of the best things going today, and a lot of people don't even know about it. You said that you haven't watched since NXT 200. I'm happy you even watched it all because there's a lot of people that either don't know it exists, that doesn't know it exists, that think it's as crappy as it was a couple years ago. This past Sunday marked I think it was the 4-year anniversary of when NXT actually debuted, and the debuts of Daniel Bryan.
I believe it's been 4 years.
Yeah, I know, it's crazy in the closure of ECW and all that stuff, but it's even crazier to think that Daniel Bryan, who we will get to in just a short bit, has been in WWE for 4 years now. It's amazing, and actually, it's very interesting, and it's kind of a segue into what we're going to be talking about next, but I think it was either on the night of the NXT debut or one of the subsequent weeks when each of the rookies was cutting a promo on what their goals were, what they hoped to accomplish, and Daniel Bryan said, "My ultimate goal in WWE is to headline WrestleMania." And I was not a part of the IWC. I wasn't a fan of Daniel Bryan. I had no idea who he was. So when he said that, I laughed out loud because I didn't think he would ever headline WrestleMania. He looked so generic at the time. It's one thing to make it in the Indies. It's a whole other thing to make it in the WWE. And I didn't think, based on his stature and his mic skills and whatever at the time, I personally did not think he would ever headline WrestleMania, and I could not have been happier to have been wrong. Will he be headlining WrestleMania this year? That's all up in the air. We will be getting to that in just a few seconds. But with all that being said, though, I'm very much looking forward to WrestleMania, Raw, and all that good stuff coming up. But going back to the topic at hand with NXT and Impact, I will be watching NXT Arrival this upcoming Thursday. Impact, well, here's the thing. NXT Arrival you can watch on delay because it's on the WWE Network. So once it ends, you can go back and watch it the minute it ends. So there's the benefit of that. In Impact, you can't technically do that. Of course, there's some websites that have it that you could do that to, and I've done that in the past, to be quite honest with you. But with NXT Arrival, I would love to watch it live, and I will be watching it live. That's one of those things. It's like they call it a pay-per-view. It's technically you're not paying for it, and well, you are because I guess it's a WWE Network. But you know what I mean, though. It's free if you have the WWE Network. So I look forward to watching that live. Impact, I'm sorry, I'll watch it on Friday. And the only thing they booked for that show or have hyped for that show in advance was Kurt Angle going into the Hall of Fame instead of in October. And I think we talked about this a couple weeks ago, how I think it's very funny that they're inducting Angle many months before he should be going into the Hall of Fame, because I guess they have the fear that he won't be re-signing with TNA by the time October rolls around. So That's pretty interesting. But, with that being the only thing hyped for TNA, and I like TNA too, but having said that, though, I look forward to watching I look forward to watching NXT Arrival live this upcoming Thursday night on the WWE Network. But without further ado, WWE Elimination Chamber this past Sunday night did not live up to everyone's expectations. Probably met some expectations. For me personally, I didn't think it was going to be that great of a show. They didn't hype it up all that well. I got some mixed reviews on it. I got some mixed thoughts on it. We won't go down every match on the card, but I thought it was okay, especially for Elimination Chamber. If this is WrestleMania we're talking about, I would have been pissed as heck. But this is Elimination Chamber, folks. This is a B pay-per-view. It's never been anything great. It's never been anything spectacular. I love the 2011 installment, but to my memory of the 5 shows of Elimination Chamber that we've had since 2010, none of them have been all that great except for 2011. So I didn't expect last night to be anything phenomenal either. But Daniel Bryan came up short of winning the WWE World Heavyweight title against Randy Orton inside the chamber when Kane screwed him over and allowed Orton to retain the title like a lot of us predicted and like I predicted last week on the show. So that came as no surprise. But now, based on what happened on Raw, it's almost pretty much all but confirmed that we will be getting Daniel Bryan versus Triple H at WrestleMania 30. And Daniel Bryan more than likely will not be in the title match. So a lot to dissect here, a lot to analyze. So Caleb, I want to get your thoughts on Daniel Bryan more than likely not being a part of the WWE World Heavyweight title match at WrestleMania. And if you think he will be a part of it, how do you see them going about that?
Well, it's one of those things where if on Twitter I've been saying since this match was announced that Orton should probably win and then somehow have Bryan get involved, make it a triple threat match with Bryan, Orton, and Batista at WrestleMania and have Bryan get his big win there. He's the WWE World Heavyweight Champion. And then, of course, the backup plan in the back of my mind was always Bryan and Triple H because ever since SummerSlam it's been inevitable that would eventually happen. Mm-hmm. And Bryan versus Triple H, I think it's going to be, I think it's just going to happen. I don't think that they're going to put Bryan in the title match unless for some reason they put Triple H in it. Then it's like a fatal four-way, and I'm not really interested in that. So they should probably just keep. I don't know what they're going to do with the world title match, but I'm sure we'll talk about that later with all that confusion. But I just honestly think we're getting Bryan versus Triple H, and even though Triple H has tended to do his fair share of burying in his day, at WrestleMania is a place where he hasn't as much. He's put over on Chris Benoit, Batista, John Cena. So hopefully we see Triple H playing him over in this one, which I'm almost positive he will. I would actually be kind of shocked if Triple H won this. But yeah, that's just my opinion. I just don't see Bryan getting involved in the title match.
I'd be extremely shocked, actually, if Triple H was to lose at WrestleMania, because I don't know. I just think it's not extremely shocked, but I would be shocked because Triple H hasn't put over many people in recent years. You mentioned Benoit, John Cena, and a few others at WrestleMania over the last 10 years, but it's been a while since he's really put over anyone. I'm trying to think. Can you remember the last time he really put over anyone strongly? I mean, I know there was Sheamus a couple years ago, but does anyone else come to mind in the last, recent 5 years or so?
He didn't really put over Axel. Maybe Lesnar, but Lesnar's, you can't really put over Lesnar. Lesnar's already over no matter what.
Yeah, I meant like young guys.
I think Sheamus is the most recent person I can think of.
Yep. I don't know. Sheamus, I think. That was 4 years ago. I don't know. The match should be great, and I'm not at all unsatisfied with the fact that we're getting that match at WrestleMania because, one, it could be a very, very good match. Daniel Bryan, they've been building towards this since August, and unlike the CM Punk Triple H match, I know that it has had some lingering issues, both in reality and in storyline for a number of years now, but Daniel Bryan versus Triple H has been the most consistent feud on WWE TV since August. And we've always said about how logic and long-term planning is key. It's essential in wrestling, and a lot of people just don't forget. Wrestling fans don't forget. And I think it's great.
Very true.
What was that?
I think that's very true. Wrestling fans really don't forget it.
Oh, yeah. I thought you said I thought you said we do. But yeah, I think it's great that we're getting that match at WrestleMania. Am I disappointed that we're not getting the Bryan in the championship match at WrestleMania? Yeah, a little bit, but a lot of people are saying, and I don't know if I exactly agree with this, that Daniel Bryan, if he was to beat Triple H, not that I don't agree with it, I just don't know if it's plausible. So, because a lot of people are saying that he'll beat Triple H, and then, like you said, be added to the title match later that night. I just honestly don't think that they can go into WrestleMania not knowing who exactly will be in the title match. Because I don't think people are going to want to order Mania and then find out that Daniel Bryan won't be in the championship match because he lost to Triple H. And obviously that wouldn't happen if that was the case, but I don't know. I mean, it's WrestleMania. This isn't an episode of Raw or something where they can change the main event in the last second. This is something they're going to be consistently building towards. And if they just focus on Orton versus Batista over the next 7 weeks, then involving Daniel Bryan in the title match that same night would be random. So, I don't know. I just don't think that's likely. Honestly, at this point, I've lost all hope of Bryan being in the title match at WrestleMania. Would I want his title win to happen at WrestleMania? Absolutely. He's the most over guy in the company. This story has been going on with him since SummerSlam. And Michael Cole, even at the end of Elimination Chamber, was going crazy on commentary, saying how he's been screwed over time and time again. And the perfect place to wrap up this story would be at WrestleMania. And I just honestly don't think it's a possibility at this point. I would love to think so. And I would love to see WWE prove me wrong by adding in Bryan in some form or another. And we have a little over a month, so anything can happen in the next 30 days or so. But even still, though, I just don't know if it's a possibility at this point. But even still, the key thing is having Daniel Bryan, if he only faces Triple H, and Triple H only at WrestleMania, not Orton or Batista, that he must go over Triple H at WrestleMania. It's essential, because it would be hypocritical of WWE, Triple H, and whoever else for having John Cena go out there, parading him out there, parading Hulk Hogan out there, and having him talk about change in the WWE, and then not follow through with it by having Triple H win. But even still, though, we'll get back to that in a little bit with the controversy with WrestleMania, Batista and Orton, which will likely spark a very interesting debate between Batista and Orton. We get to that in a little bit. But I want to talk briefly about the Intercontinental Championship picture. We had a very good match between Big E and Swagger at Elimination Chamber this past Sunday night. Much better match than I thought it would be, quite honestly. It kicked off the show. I thought it would be nothing more than a filler match, because they confirmed it no more than a week before the show, and a lot of people just did not care about this feud. And Big E has unfortunately not been featured on television as much as I would like him to be. So I didn't think anyone would care about this match, but they went out there and just had a hell of a showing in front of the live crowd. The live crowd was chanting, "This is awesome," which is something you don't ordinarily see for an Intercontinental title match. So I thought that was very cool. And then the next night on Raw, after Big E successfully retained his title at Elimination Chamber, we had Big E versus Cesaro. Big E won via disqualification after Swagger interfered blatantly. I mean, it wasn't even behind the referee's back. It was just very obvious that he interfered and was intending to get Cesaro disqualified. And then they showed tension between Cesaro and Big E, or Cesaro and Swagger after the match. And I said last week on this show that I would not be surprised, and I mean, I predicted Swagger to win at Chamber, and I was obviously wrong about that, but I would not be surprised to see Cesaro versus Swagger for the IC title at WrestleMania with Cesaro as the face. But it looks like we might get Big E in the title picture as well in a triple threat match. So, Caleb, your thoughts on the IC title match at Elimination Chamber and what you see going forward in the future of the IC title picture?
I didn't see the Intercontinental title match at Elimination Chamber, but from what I've heard, it sounded like a good match. Both guys are solid in the ring, so I'm sure it was pretty good. And the weird thing is, I'm not really sure the direction they're going with the Intercontinental title picture, because I could see 3 matches coming out of this, because Cesaro and Swagger are eventually going to feud, and I'm sure by WrestleMania. So I think we'll either get Swagger versus Cesaro. One of them wins the Intercontinental title, and then they have that match, Swagger Cesaro for the title, or they just have Big E defend against both of them in a triple threat match. And honestly, I see it all happening with, if it is for the Intercontinental title, then I think Cesaro is going to be leading WrestleMania with the Intercontinental title. But nonetheless, I'm not really sure what they're doing here. I mean, I've been, I figured that Swagger and Cesaro feud would eventually happen since about, I think, November, December. I started kind of thinking that it could possibly happen at Mania. Of course, I had other scenarios for it, but it's really weird. It seems like Big E, is going to be involved in it, and if they decide to keep him in there, it could be interesting. But it's just like last year's Intercontinental title picture is they alluded to Miz, Barrett, and Jericho, and then it just ended up with Miz and Barrett, and Jericho went to feud with Fandango. So So I'm not really sure where they're going here. I could see Big E being involved in it somehow, but I wouldn't be surprised if next week they just completely ignore the fact that the Intercontinental title was ever involved in the feud.
Well, last year was much worse because they completely forgot they had an IC title champion, or they had an Intercontinental Championship to begin with, because Wade Barrett was losing constantly at this time last year. He was booked terribly as IC champion, and then he won it back shortly after WrestleMania, so that was a complete waste of his time for like the 6 months, the first 6 months of 2013. But having said that, though, I really hope that the IC title match this year at WrestleMania, granted it was defended last year at WrestleMania, and I think the year before that, with Cody Rhodes and Big Show, so for one thing, it's a plus that we might get an IC title match at WrestleMania. The bigger plus is getting Cesaro on the card, because it's funny because a lot of people predicted that last year we would get Cesaro versus Swagger for the United States Championship, because Cesaro was the U.S. champion at the time. Swagger was going to come back, and a lot of people thought he would come back as a face. So it's funny that we might be getting it 1 year later. But having said that, though, Cesaro had a great showing inside the chamber on Sunday night. He has a very bright future. This is the same guy that beat the World Heavyweight Champion just a few short weeks ago on SmackDown. He beat Randy Orton clean. So, that being said, I think he really needs a solid spot on the WrestleMania card this year and not a throwaway match on the pre-show or any garbage like that. He needs a solid, firm position on the card this year, either against Big E or Swagger. A triple threat could be great. Swagger, I honestly don't really care about all that much. I mean, last year he was in a world title match. It's just crazy to see how far he's fallen since then. But even still, Big E deserves to be at WrestleMania. He's had a great run with the IC title over the last few months. So putting him in a triple threat match, I think would be the best for both guys. So hopefully we do see that come to fruition at WrestleMania. But before we get any further, we can't continue this conversation without mentioning the return of this man this past week on Monday Night Raw.
Crashing down and it hurts inside. You gotta take a stand, it don't have to hide.
Hulk Hogan is back, Jack, this past Monday night on Monday Night Raw. Hulk Hogan finally, and not to quote The Rock or anything here, Hulk Hogan is finally back home. Hulkamania is running wild, folks. He is back home to host WrestleMania 30 this year, and what a better guy to host WrestleMania than the guy that was involved in the main event of WrestleMania 1 30 years ago. There's the obvious discussion about people loving Hogan in WWE and hating him in TNA. The obvious difference is, let's get this straight for a second. Hogan on Monday Night Raw last night was out there for 5 minutes, and even JR said this. I tweeted this during the show. JR said the same thing in his blog today about how Hogan was more over in 5 minutes than he was in 4 years in TNA. And he got good reactions in TNA, don't get me wrong. That's not a knock on TNA or anything. But just the fact that he got a massive reaction last night after 7 years away from the WWE, and that was the only segment that he had on the show, which I think is great. No one interrupted. He did what he had to do. He hyped the network. He hyped WrestleMania. He greeted back the fans, and he left. He didn't overshadow anyone else. He didn't quote-unquote bury anybody. He's a nice nostalgia act to have back for WrestleMania, and even pass out maybe in a Legends deal or something, like we get Ric Flair from time to time now. I think it's great that he's in WWE. In TNA, I thought it was great when he first arrived there. A lot of people thought he would do the company good. He didn't do anything at all. I think it was a complete waste of his time, our time, and TNA's time to bring him in. There were a few things here and there that he did right, but overall, him and Bischoff, I don't want to say they ruined TNA, but they practically did ruin TNA. They didn't do a lot to help them, and they're in a much worse shape now than they were 4 years ago. So that being said, though, Hulk Hogan finally left in October. I remember talking about this in the first episode of this show in October, about how Hulk Hogan might be coming to WWE. It's finally come to fruition. Caleb, your thoughts on Hulkamania running wild in WWE once again?
I'm just really psyched about it. Of course, I was happy to see him at TNA when he first showed up, like, a lot of people were. And I was like, man, TNA is really going to be able to go head-to-head with WWE. Then they moved to Monday nights, and Hulk Hogan just really kind of being there and messed things up. He had, 5 segments of the show, and he would take up so much time, for almost, 4 years, basically. And then it was great to finally to see him on Raw. It was great to hear Real American playing again.
Yes,
I mean, I like TNA theme, but God, Real American, you can't go, I mean, with Hogan, besides maybe the NWO theme, he's never had a better theme than Real American. It's just fantastic. And, he just started off the show, he had a small, he only talked for, about 5 minutes. He never, like he said, did what he needed to do. He didn't see him backstage again. You didn't see him randomly come out or anything to attack someone or that would have been awful if he had attacked someone. But he was just there. He was just there for 5 minutes. It felt like an appearance. When he was in TNA, he felt like he was just the entire show. It was like, oh, here comes, what's Hulk Hogan going to do next? Oh, he doesn't like Bully Ray.
Yep.
Oh, Brooks legs, all that nonsense. And then now it's just he was just talking. He just said, I'm going to host WrestleMania, and that was it. And I thought it was great.
Yeah, Dixie Carter has seemed to take over that role now of taking over TNA and appearing in every single segment, which I think is even worse now that I think back on it. But yeah, like you said, he's a nostalgia act. He's back for WrestleMania. It's perfect because, like I said before, he was involved in the WrestleMania 1 event. But like you said, though, couldn't agree more. Real American, just a fantastic entrance theme. I think the favorite of mine of all time, I think my favorite entrance theme of all time has to be Real American. And having started watching wrestling in April of 2008, Hogan left the WWE, or made his last appearance in the WWE, in December of 2007. So I had yet to see Hulk Hogan or hear his theme on WWE TV. And no, I don't count that time when the Three Stooges were on Raw and they had someone dress up as him and come out. And that was ridiculous. I thought that was a complete waste of time. But even still, though, it's great to hear Real American on WWE TV once again. I'm not exactly sure when he will be back on Raw, whether it's next week, next month, which is only a few days away anyway. But we have a few more Raws until WrestleMania, I think maybe 4 or 5. So I'm not exactly sure what his role will be going into WrestleMania, because obviously Rock going into WrestleMania 27, which he hosted, he had a program going with The Miz and John Cena. But that was building to a match, and I think we can all agree here that Hulk Hogan should not be wrestling in WWE or ever again. I'm a huge Hulkamaniac, but Hulk Hogan, and given the shape that he's currently in, and I think, obviously, just to go on a side note here, I think he looked better last night than he did during his TNA run, because he looked like he was having some trouble getting down to the ring or whatever during his TNA run. Just a few short months ago, back in October, if you can go back and watch it, he didn't look all that great. So he appears to be in great shape now that he's in WWE. Maybe he did some working out, because I know he was at the Performance Center not too long ago. So that was very cool to see. But he should not be wrestling at all. There's no doubt about that. Maybe in the corner of somebody at WrestleMania. I know we've talked about that before. So I look forward to what his role will be at WrestleMania this year. I very much look forward to it. But he wasn't the only superstar to return last night on Monday Night Raw. That was at the start of Raw, then at the end of Raw, as I played in the pre-show audio clip. The Undertaker has returned to the WWE in an apparent program with Brock Lesnar. Brock Lesnar came out, a table and contract and all, saying that he was issuing an open challenge for WrestleMania, since the Authority did not grant him his desired match for the WWE World Heavyweight Championship at WrestleMania. So at least they addressed that. I was afraid that they would completely forget about that after Lesnar said he wanted to go or contend for the WWE title a couple of months ago. So I'm glad they addressed that. So he said that he wouldn't be getting that, and then he gets to pick his opponent for WrestleMania. Cue The Undertaker to a loud pop from the Green Bay fans. He comes out, and he signs a contract, or Lesnar signs a contract, and before Undertaker can sign, he stabs the hand of Brock Lesnar, which I didn't see coming. I thought that was pretty cool. And then he gives a chokeslam to Lesnar through the table, and that is that. The Undertaker ends his show looking like circa 1999 Ministry of Darkness, or 1997, or whatever the hell it was. But a great way to close the show. We were talking earlier on in the show, Caleb, or before the show went live, about how the ending and closing, or the ending and starting segments of these shows, of last night's Raw, were the strong points, and I couldn't agree more. So your thoughts on The Undertaker's return to WWE last night on Raw?
Well, there are two things I can take out of Undertaker's return, and that's one, I've never marked out so hard for facial hair. I don't know what the deal was with me. Like, I don't know, maybe because I'm such a huge mark for Ministry of Darkness taker or something, but it was crazy. And then, this is the first time we've seen someone get, stabbed with a pin in WWE since, Vince and Hogan's contract signing back in 2003. Mm-hmm. That was great and random and non-PG. I would never expect someone to get stabbed in the head with a pin in the current PG environment. So it was great and different, and it felt different. It didn't feel like just like, oh, we've seen so many contract signings the last few years. It's just the same thing, and they talk and they fight, and then it's, oh, maybe something a little different will happen. And then finally, you're like, oh, someone got stabbed in the hand with a pen. And granted, it did turn into a brawl like most contract signings do. But it was just great. It felt so unique and different. Even though we've seen Undertaker and Lesnar feud before, we've seen Undertaker return WrestleMania time before, something about it just felt fresh. And I don't know what it was. Maybe it was just him being stabbed in the hand with a pen. But it just felt great. And I'm just really looking, and even though I do worry for Undertaker's health at WrestleMania because Brock Lesnar could definitely hurt him on accident, but nonetheless, I'm actually really looking forward to this match now.
That was one of my gripes going into this matchup, and you just said it yourself. These two have feuded before, albeit 10 years ago. I mean, that was in, 02, 03? So it was a long time ago, but and another gripe of mine going into this match at WrestleMania was the fact that Lesnar's physical style was too much for Taker to handle, and Undertaker would ultimately break a hip during the matchup. But you know what? And I know a lot of people, myself included, wanted to see Taker versus Cena at WrestleMania, or something a little more fresh. But you know what? As it goes for the rest of the WrestleMania card, and with the exception of Batista Orton, which I'll get to in a minute, you just got to make the most of it. We're not going to get Cena versus Taker. That was pretty apparent up to a couple months ago. Taker even said last year, there were reports going around that he'd be facing Lesnar at this year's WrestleMania. So, you know what? You just make the most of it. There could be far worse people that he could be facing right now. He could be facing Triple H for the millionth time. He could be facing Randy Orton again. I just like the fact that someone new at WrestleMania, and Brock Lesnar, unlike last year, is being booked dominantly going into WrestleMania. Because remember, he defeated, with the exception of last night, but I'll get to that in a second, because he defeated Triple H at Extreme Rules, defeated CM Punk at SummerSlam, and then decimated the Big Show at the Royal Rumble. So he's 3-0 so far in the last year in terms of pay-per-view. I mean, he lost to Triple H last year at WrestleMania, but disregarding that, in his last 3 matches, he is 3-0. So, and I think it's okay that Taker beat him up last night, because a lot of people were expecting Lesnar to just come out, beat Taker up, and end the show that way, which would have been fine too, but I thought it was a nice change of pace for Undertaker to come out and get the better of Lesnar, and with that awesome pen-stabbing spot, it's just a small stuff like that that can just make a segment memorable, and it definitely did. The crowd loved it, we loved it, the new look, the Undertaker's always adapting his image, so it's great to see him changing up his look with the goatee and the he's had the mohawk for a couple of years now, but he's sporting some gray hair now on his head, and he obviously looks a lot older, but he's looking more badass by the day. So it's pretty cool to see him in rare form this past Monday night on Raw in a great segment with Brock Lesnar. But aside from that, though, I thought also this overall episode of Raw, I thought it was pretty good. Not only these 2 segments were the highlights of the show, but we also had Daniel Bryan versus Kane, and Daniel Bryan went over. And also earlier on in the evening, we had a rematch from Elimination Chamber between Batista and Alberto Del Rio. The match itself was meh at best, obviously, because Batista hasn't wrestled in 4 years. He's gotten better since the Rumble, I'll give him that. He looks to be in better shape, but his in-ring skills still definitely need some work. And they made the most of the match. It was a few minutes. It was relatively painless. Del Rio gave Batista his first loss since returning, following interference or a distraction from Randy Orton on the stage. And the reason why I mentioned this segment is because it's the first time since Batista came back that it's been acknowledged that his boos have been acknowledged for the first time since the Rumble. Orton came out and said that everyone hates him, and they were booing him too, of course, which was pretty funny, but it was just very interesting to hear Orton actually acknowledge the boos. And it wasn't even him, too. It was also the commentators during the matchup and during his entrance. And Batista got on the mic and said, if they boo me, I'll boo them back. And apparently Batista's supposed to be at the SmackDown tapings tonight. It might have already happened. I don't know. I don't read spoilers. I'm finding out till Friday. I'm waiting till Friday to find out. But it's being hyped for SmackDown that Batista will speak his mind on the WWE Universe. I find it hard to believe they do a heel turn on SmackDown of all places. And I would hate to see him come out, cut a quote-unquote heartwarming promo, how he loves everybody, start crying, and then pipe in the cheers, because it's SmackDown after all. But even still, though, I thought that was very interesting, and the rumors of Batista turning heel have definitely have definitely become much more frequent in the last few days because a lot of people just can't see Batista lasting long as a fan favorite, or a face, I should say, because he's not a fan favorite at the moment. So, Caleb, your thoughts on Batista in general since the Rumble and the reactions he's been getting, and if you see a heel turn in his future?
No, I, of course, am one of the few people who I don't have an issue with Batista. I've been a fan of Batista since I started watching. I have nothing against him now. If he did a little more cardio, I think he'd be a little better in the ring. He just looks winded. But as far as since the Rumble, I mean, the Rumble is something he had, they said, hey, want to come back, we're going to let you win the Rumble and everything. And he was like, okay. But he did what he was supposed to do. It's not like he would just go out there and say, you know what, no, I'm going to, let Roman Reigns win, or, and I'm going to eliminate myself and go, or something stupid like that. And he's not going to do a shoot or some stupid thing so he won't win the Rumble. Why wouldn't he want to, if they're saying, hey, we're going to let you win the Rumble, then he's going to win the Rumble. I mean, and I understand the fans are upset, about Daniel Bryan. And then, Batista, I get the booze, I do, but it's kind of just, I don't get why, everyone, the same people that were excited he's coming back, are all of a sudden against him, and it's not in his control. I mean, and as far as the heel turn, he's the most over heel in the company, most hated heel, despite the fact that he's a face, so a heel turn only makes sense. He has one of the biggest heel reactions, just a chorus of boos. It's just, to definitely turn him heel, but the only issue there is then you have the heel versus heel match headlining WrestleMania for the world title, and then that can lead, I don't see how they can really do it without adding someone like Bryan and make it a triple threat match. It's really confusing. Just out of every storyline right now, Batista is the most confusing storyline. I have no idea where they're going with this, with acknowledging the boos. If they don't start, they're probably going to try to get the fans to start liking him again. I have no idea how they're going to do that. So I just don't know. I'm just very confused with the whole Batista thing.
As confusing as it is, it's also intriguing. Like you said, I'm on the same boat as you. I have no problem with Batista at all. I very much like Batista. I've been a fan of his for a couple years now. Actually, right before he left, not during the heel turn either. Right before he turned heel, I started becoming a fan of his, and his heel turn, his heel run in 2010 was tremendous, and a lot of people thought he would be coming back as that character, and obviously he did, and he would come back to that pop, and he did, in that Raw on January 20th a month ago, and since then it's just been all downhill from there, and I don't not like Batista, if that makes any sense. I'm a fan of Batista, like I said before. I just don't like the idea of him being at WrestleMania, and it's basically it's a foregone conclusion that Bryan should be in the main event of WrestleMania. I mean, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure that out. He's the most over guy in the company, and it's not just amongst the IWC or the internet or the ROH fans. That's stupid. That's stupid to even say, because this guy, Daniel Bryan, is getting massive reactions wherever he goes. Not only in Chicago, where they will be next week, and I'll get to that in a second, New York and Los Angeles and wherever else. He's getting massive reactions everywhere. This guy is the most over guy in the company, and not putting him in the main event of WrestleMania is just asinine. And then putting Batista in there, a guy who hasn't been seen in a couple years, just back in the main event of WrestleMania. And the main difference between him and maybe a guy like The Rock, who was gone longer, and I don't know. I just think it's a fact that him versus Orton, unlike Rock and Cena, it just hadn't been done before. It was fresh. It was something we've never seen before. Batista and Orton is a match we've seen God knows how many times over the last 10 years or so since Evolution. I know they feuded in 08 for a while, and I said this yesterday on Twitter, but it's interesting because Orton and Batista were going to face off, I think, I'm trying to jog my memory here, 5 years ago at WrestleMania 25, another huge anniversary, and I was actually looking forward to that matchup because Batista had a reason to go after Randy Orton because it all made sense. Orton injured Batista, and Batista was going to come back. He didn't end up coming back until the night after WrestleMania. But I don't know. I'm like you. I'm also very intrigued and confused, if only because I don't think they can get to Mania. I don't know if they're stupid enough to do this match at Mania without thinking, this match is going to go off without a hitch. I mean, people are going to crap all over this thing at WrestleMania. They have to realize that. So, like you said, they need to make. I don't know. They need to add somebody. They need to make it a triple threat. I'm not exactly sure what they're going to do, and a double turn is not the answer. Randy Orton should not turn face anytime soon, if ever again. and Batista just needs to turn heel. So, I don't know. If you see it becoming a triple threat, Caleb, who would you like to see added? If not Daniel Bryan, who would you like to see added to the match to make it a triple threat?
It's one of those things where the only guy who would make logical sense to add to this match is CM Punk, and that's not going to happen. So I really don't know who it would be. It's just, I've seen people say Roman Reigns, but I don't think he's ready to be main eventing WrestleMania just yet. Maybe next year, but now, no. It's just really confusing. I don't know, like, they don't have another top, Cena is busy with Bray Wyatt, and like basically all the guys I can think of are all either in feuds, and then the big one who I could see besides Bryan is no longer in the company. So it's just really, I have no idea. They've booked themselves into a corner with this one. I have no idea.
You mentioned CM Punk, which is very interesting, of course, because they will be in Chicago on March 3rd, this upcoming Monday night on Raw. Very much looking forward to that. If CM Punk isn't there, and he obviously won't be, I don't think he will be. Imagine the pop, though, if he came through the crowd or if he came out and interrupted somebody or something along those lines, and he re-signed with the company or whatever, and he got back for that Raw. And WWE right now is just making this one massive work and just pulling the wool over all of our eyes. I would be ecstatic, but I just honestly, realistically, don't think that's the case. So, that being said, though, what they do with this match, I don't really know. They have quite a few weeks until WrestleMania, so hopefully they come up with a solution before then. But you mentioned Roman Reigns and the Shield and the Wyatt family. They had a tremendous six-man tag team match at Elimination Chamber. By far one of the best matches I've seen in quite some time, and easily one of the best matches of 2014 up to this point. And that's a little premature to say because it's only February. We're only a month and a half into the new year. But even said that though, it was continued on the next night on Raw. I thought it'd be a one-and-done deal. Apparently not, because Roman Reigns and Bray Wyatt had a solid singles match the next night on Raw. Roman Reigns lost the match via disqualification after Dean Ambrose interfered, and the teasing tension continues between the members of the Shield and Roman Reigns and Dean Ambrose. And with all that being said, though, Caleb, what do you see happening at WrestleMania with the Shield? What do you see happening with this feud between the Wyatt family and the Shield going forward?
One thing I could possibly see happening is, because it looks like we're getting Bray Wyatt versus John Cena. So I don't know what Harper and Rowan would do. But I'm sure we're going to get another Shield and Wyatt family match probably next Monday on Raw. After that, I just kind of see the feud ending because I honestly just think that the Shield will either get Roman Reigns versus Dean Ambrose at WrestleMania for the U.S. title, or we'll get a triple threat between all three for the U.S. title. It's just another one of those things. But if Cena actually did get hurt on Monday, whenever it looked like his leg was a little messed up, then I could definitely see them having an actual, another Shield and Wyatt match. But if Cena's fine, and then Cena be going Bray Wyatt and John Cena, so I'm not really sure. I just honestly think that we're going to get the blow off of this feud next Monday on Raw, and then we end up with the Shield in a triple threat. And then I have no idea what Harper and Rowan do if they really even need to do anything. But then of course Bray Wyatt versus John Cena.
Well, as far as the Shield split goes, I'm very intrigued to see where that goes. Roman Reigns, I've said it time and time again, obviously it's a no-brainer that Roman Reigns has massive potential as a breakout babyface, so I look forward to the moment that he finally turns on his teammates, or at least Dean Ambrose, and I hope that comes next week in Chicago, because the reaction that could receive could be massive. So, having said that, though, and where else, too? No, I was thinking maybe Ambrose should drop the title next week, but in the same place that he won it, but he won it at Extreme Rules, not in Chicago at Payback. But even still, though, I'm very much looking forward to what they do with the Shield. I don't think they could do Reigns versus Ambrose in a singles match at WrestleMania. Seth Rollins should not be left out. Like you said, just go with the legacy route, do a triple threat between the three for the U.S. title at WrestleMania. The U.S. title doesn't mean jack squat right now, but just give it a boost. And I said this last year, but the U.S. Championship hasn't been defended at WrestleMania since WrestleMania 23. I think it was 7 years ago between Benoit and MVP. So it's been quite a while since we've gotten a U.S. title match at WrestleMania. I hope this is the year that happens. I look forward to it. Should be a very good matchup between all three of those guys. You also mentioned John Cena versus Bray Wyatt. That also looks like a foregone conclusion for WrestleMania, Cena versus Wyatt. As far as the injury angle goes to John Cena, I don't think that's legitimate. I think it was confirmed after the show because I read reports that they were actually putting in the stretcher near the arena or near the ring before the segment even began, so they knew that it was going to happen. So I don't think Cena's actually injured. They were just he just did a tremendous job of selling it. But hopefully they put heat on the Wyatts for doing that. But even still, though, what are your thoughts on Bray Wyatt versus John Cena happening at WrestleMania? I know a lot of people want to see Cena versus Taker and the Wyatts versus The Shield at WrestleMania instead of having it at Elimination Chamber. So what are your thoughts on having Wyatt versus Cena at WrestleMania?
I'm not against it. I mean, part of me just kind of thinks, like, I have no idea if it's going to be a good match. I've never, of course, like, Bray Wyatt had match of the night 2 pay-per-views in a row. And it's just a big question of whether or not this match would be good, if it's going to be WrestleMania worthy. I think it could be because they're both, very talented guys, and I think it could end up being a great match. My only issue with this match is it worries me that they're going to have Cena win, and if you want to get Bray Wyatt even more over than he already is, he's got to win. And I honestly don't see that happening, and that's the only thing that worries me about this match.
Yep.
So, but other than that, I have no issue with it. I'm very intrigued by it. They got some interesting, both got very interesting in-ring styles, and I think it could be pretty solid.
Absolutely, could not agree more. It looks like it could be a very good match. Say what you will about Cena's in-ring ability, because I know a lot of people crap all over it, but the match itself could be very, very good. Bray Wyatt has been consistently featured in some of the best matches of the pay-per-view for the last number of months at Royal Rumble and this past week at Elimination Chamber. So the match itself could be very good. The feud so far has been well built. The Wyatt family, like you said, got the best of Cena at Royal Rumble, then again at Elimination Chamber. So I, too, am very fearful that Cena will go over. And I know a lot of people will say, oh, he'll look strong in defeat, he'll look better in defeat than he will if he won. This is WrestleMania. It's not like it's any other B pay-per-view. People will remember this moment. Even if Bray Wyatt was to defeat Cena the next night on Raw, or end his career, or whatever, defeat him at Extreme Rules, people won't remember that. People will look back at WrestleMania and see who beat who, and not who looked strong in defeat or any of that garbage. So Bray Wyatt has to go over here. He's a fresher act, and I surely hope he does, because I mentioned the whole winds of change thing blowing before, like what Wade Barrett said a couple years ago. But John Cena cut a similar promo a couple weeks ago on Raw, and like I said before, he'd be hypocritical not to put over Bray Wyatt at WrestleMania. I don't think it would damage the group. I don't think it would ruin the Wyatt family if he was to lose at WrestleMania, but he must win. I also look forward to his live entrance, too, because I know it was rumored that the artist of his entrance music, will perform the theme live at WrestleMania, which could be absolutely awesome, so I look forward to that. But yeah, Bray Wyatt should win at WrestleMania. Aside from that, I'm good. I'm fine with this matchup, because it's the first time in a long time that I think ever, actually. No, actually, maybe for the first time since WrestleMania 20, that John Cena is A, not in the main event, hopefully, and B, not in a championship match. Actually, WrestleMania 20 was in a U.S. title match, so yeah, the first time in his career that he'd be in a technical undercard match. So I look forward to it. It's a great spot for Bray Wyatt. Do I think it's too soon? A little bit, but after seeing him put on some amazing matches at Royal Rumble and Elimination Chamber, I think he can handle it. And you mentioned before, Caleb, about what they do with Eric Rowan and Luke Harper. We'll segue right into the tag team title picture. At Elimination Chamber, the New Age Outlaws defeated the Usos to retain the tag team titles. The Usos went over the New Age Outlaws in a matter of seconds the next night on Raw. So it looks like the Usos, hopefully they don't capture the titles on Raw. I want to see it happen at WrestleMania. It's a huge stage. It must happen on the grandest stage of them all. It would mean more. It would be more memorable. And so I hope it happens at WrestleMania, if anything. They need to win the titles for one thing. The New Age Outlaws won't be champions forever. I don't hate them as champions. I think it's good that they're champions because they'll put over whoever they eventually lose the titles to. So I see Usos versus the New Age Outlaws, maybe versus the Road Brothers, and maybe you put Harper and Rowan in that fourth spot for a Fatal 4-Way Tag Team title match at WrestleMania. Like an old classic Fatal 4-Way Tag Team title match at WrestleMania that we haven't seen in years. I know they used to have some a couple years ago, like at WrestleMania 2000 or wherever else a couple years before that. So your thoughts on the tag team title picture and what they might do with the tag team titles at WrestleMania?
I honestly think, like what you said, I think we're going to get a Fatal 4-Way Tag. Definitely, honestly, I think it's going to end up being New Age Outlaws, Usos, Wyatt, and probably the Rhodes Brothers, or Ryback. Probably the Rose Brothers if they don't end up having a match, which that makes me sad if they won't have a match. But
yep, same
nonetheless,
here, yeah.
I can definitely see it. I mean, it's probably going to be them. They're, especially since they just beat Ryback. And then, I definitely see the Usos winning the titles there. Because the New Age Outlaws, it was obvious the second they won them that, like you said, they aren't going to keep them forever. They're both in their mid to late 40s, and they're just transition champions, so they're going to hold them for about, by WrestleMania's time, it'll be like, I believe, not a little under 3 months. And so, I don't see the New Age Outlaws holding them past WrestleMania. If they went into WrestleMania and retain the titles, I would be very shocked. There's no doubt in my mind the Usos are winning the titles at WrestleMania 30.
They need to. I don't think they should put the titles on them beforehand. I mean, it would make for a cool moment on Raw, don't get me wrong. I just think it would mean more if they did it at WrestleMania. That's why I was actually happy that the New Age Outlaws retained at WrestleMania instead of the Usos winning. So one quick question before we go off the air. We only have a few short minutes left. But quick question. Christian turned heel a few weeks ago. He's apparently feuding with Sheamus now after a great showing in the Chamber. Do you see Christian finally getting his, no pun intended, one more match at WrestleMania, a singles match at Mania, before he retires, presumably later this year?
I definitely see that they're going in some direction with Christian, and it makes me happy because I'm a huge Christian fan. I think heel Christian is the best Christian there is. He's amazing as a heel. I mean, he's great as a face, don't get me wrong, but his heel work is arguably the best in WWE and in TNA. So I really do think that Christian's going to be in some program at WrestleMania. It looks like Sheamus, possibly, despite the fact that they've already had 2 or 3 matches on television the last couple of weeks.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, just really who knows? At this point, I mean, they could end up maybe putting in that match as Ziggler. That's the only other person I could think of. But I definitely think they have some sort of plan with Christian, whether it's actually at WrestleMania or in the pre-show.
I would hope it's not on the pre-show. I'd be fine if it was on the pre-show as long as he's getting a match at all. You know what I mean? As long as he gets...
Yeah.
If it's a tag team match, whatever. But I mean, as long as he gets on the WrestleMania card, because he was injured last year, WrestleMania 28 injured, and the funny thing about WrestleMania 28, you probably remember this, he was attacked by CM Punk days before the show, and he was taken out of that match, that multi-man match at WrestleMania. I was so pissed that year. What was that?
That was so random. That really irritated me.
Yeah, I think he was still injured. They just, I don't know, they didn't realize that was stupid. Then he was in the corner of Edge at 27, he didn't wrestle, and then he was in the Money in the Bank match at 26, and he was forgotten about, same thing with 25. So hopefully he gets a singles match this year at WrestleMania. As a Pete for life, I really hope he does. But on that note, though, we will close out WrestleRant Radio. It's been a great show, lots to talk about. Some stuff we didn't even get to, but we covered all the main topics. Been great talking to you, Caleb, but of course, before we go off the air, feel free to plug your Twitter, Facebook, your show, and anywhere else where the fans can find you.
Hey, you can follow me on Twitter at @TheAustinClark, and you can follow my show, CNC Reviews, Twitter at Easy of Radio. Also, you can subscribe to our new YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/EVTV Productions, and which is great. You're going to get a lot of great content. You're going to get CNC reviews, Mac and Kyle reviews, and then of course you're going to get my single shows that are just really random, just top 10 movies, random stuff like that. Full season reviews for shows, random movie reviews that are just random in the theater to see. There's lots of just consistent, great content, and we're going to be, I believe Mac and Kyle reviews will sometime later this week. That'll be the first edition. And then, of course, you can catch CNC reviews tomorrow in our last show on Blog Talk Radio, which is at 8/7 Central. And it's just going to be great. We're going to talk about lots of great stuff. And that's basically all my plugs.
Fantastic. And, of course, you guys can follow me on Twitter at WrestleRant. You can find me on Facebook, like my official Facebook page at Graham GSM Matthews. You can also check out nextEraWrestling.weebly.com for every archived episode of this show, listen to exclusive excerpts of this show, and much, much more over at my YouTube page. Same thing, Graham GSM Matthews on Bleacher Report as well. This show airs every Tuesday night live at 9 o'clock Eastern Time, 8 Central Time, right here on EC Radio. But, of course, you can check out the archived podcast version over at my website, as I said before. Next week, March 4th, one day removed from the controversial Raw in Chicago, we're going to be talking about all that and much more on the road to WrestleMania. But, however, at the start of the show, we will be doing an exclusive interview with Northeast Wrestling star, or New England Championship Wrestling star, and the current NECW Heavyweight Champion, Slick Wagner Brown, next Tuesday night, 9 Eastern Time, 8 Central Time. So with all that being said, guys, thanks for listening live, and until next time, this is GSM signing out.